I'd like to welcome to the show today Gary Cain of the Gary Cain Band.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And Gary's come out with a new album, Twangadelic Bluesophunk. So if you haven't seen this album, make sure you run out and get it. And so Gary, I got to ask you about the title of this particular album. Give me some context for that.
Well, I think it kind of is a way I used to describe the style of music we play. And I think we were at a gig and my drummer, Donnie, said, hey, that should be the album title. And so I said, yeah, you know what, that should be. And that's kind of a blend of the styles we play. So twang, we like to play a lot of twangy stuff. Delic is kind of more the Hendrixy stuff. Obviously blues and funk are pretty self-explanatory, but that's kind of what this album's all about, is a mix of different influences. So.
And how is this album, how would you describe this album being different from your first one?
Well, this is my first album.
Or I guess your first EP, I guess.
Yeah. Well, my first one that I did, I kind of did a short EP that I just did all on my own and kind of in my apartment studio as I did it. And that was a lot more rock and kind of fusion based. This one's a lot more blues and funk based. So I kind of went back to that style of music a little bit more.
So you went to Austin, Texas not that long ago.
Yeah, I just got back. I actually just got back a week ago.
And you paid homage to some of your heroes?
Yeah, I went and saw the Stevie Ray Vaughan statue, and genuflected in front of it appropriately. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. Austin's got a really cool music scene.
Now, when you went to Austin, were you kind of doing a little bit of musical history kind of when you were there?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's a great city. They've got statues of Stevie Ray Vaughan, Willie Nelson, and Roy Orbison, so that's a pretty good sign for any city for me. But there's just so many great musicians that are there. So a lot of my favorite players come from there, and I really like the musical styles that come from Austin. So we've been out and seen a lot of really, really great players.
Great. Now, you were also rated number 4 unsigned blues guitarist in the world.
Yes.
But six-string theory contest.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about six-string theory contest. How you found out about them, why you entered the contest. And
Sure, yeah. Well, it's Lee Ritenour, who's I guess a Grammy Award-winning guitar player, a producer. He runs this contest every 2 years called Six String Theory. And then they get a bunch of celebrity judges, celebrity, in the guitar world, I guess celebrities. So Joe Bonamassa was one year, Steve Vai, Ry Cooder, stuff like that. So so I can't remember how I came upon it, but I decided to enter into it. And two years ago, I guess I came in 6th. And then the last time I came in 4th. So I figure if I keep entering it, I'll be 2nd next time, and then maybe I'll,
So by 2020, you could be number 1.
That's right. By retirement, I should have won the whole thing. So.
But you don't actually go and perform live for this. Like you submit a video,
You submit
right?
videos for that, yeah. So you have to submit 3 videos of yourself playing. And
so how do you decide what you're going to submit for a contest like that?
I don't know. At the time, I didn't have a whole lot of video available, so I just kind of looked at what I had and figured these are probably the 3 best, and kind of hope for the best. Although I saw a lot of the entries, people put a lot more production value into that. I was just kind of shooting on my iPhone in my home studio, that kind of thing. But yeah, it worked out pretty good.
But it's like in that contest, there's people from 84 countries.
Yeah, something like that. I think it might be 48 actually.
48, okay.
But yeah, it's all
a lot
over
of
the
countries.
world.
Hundreds of people submit.
Yeah, it's quite a few
contest.
people.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Number 4 is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They actually got back to me and they gave me some of the feedback that some of the judges had said, but they wouldn't tell you who said what. It was but it was neat to think that, hey, Joe Bonamassa was forced to watch something of me playing as part of his duties as a judge. So,
do you think the objective of that is just because it's unsigned? Mm-hmm. So, where do you think getting recognition as being one of the top blues guitarists in the world? How do you leverage that?
Well, it got me on your show, didn't it? Isn't that why I'm here?
That's part of the reason, yes. We always like to have, it's great when the Canadian blues artists are recognized as top in the world.
That's true. No, I think that's basically why they run it, is to get people kind of their name out there and give them some notoriety. There are prize packages you can win. So I think if you won the whole thing, you get to play at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and I think you get to record on Lee Ritenour's next album and that kind of thing. So unfortunately, I finished just out of the prizes, so but that's all right.
Have you gotten approached by anybody from a label or anything at this point? Or is that the hope maybe with this album will get you the exposure?
No, I mean, I think the way to do it is kind of DIY, and I don't know that really the label approach would be appropriate at this point, but I might be open to listening to anything, but I don't know what blues labels would necessarily take us on, but certainly I'd be open to it if you're out there. Right? You guys will edit in like a little shing on my teeth afterwards, right? I've watched enough toothpaste commercials to know how it works. So
you spent some time living and working in Dubai.
I did, yeah.
So tell me
yeah.
the story of how the heck you ended up playing in Dubai.
Just bad luck, I guess. Yeah, I was playing a gig, and actually an organ player was subbing in for the bass player on this gig, and he, on the set break, he said, "Hey, I'm putting together a band that's going to Dubai. Would you be interested in playing?" And I thought he was just BSing. I thought nothing's going to come from this. So I said, "Yeah, sure, it sounds cool." And a week later, he called me and said, "It's happening." So we had a month to rehearse tunes and learn it all. And the next thing I know, I was on this flight over to Dubai, and we landed, and it was very surreal. We landed at night, and they're all wearing, the dish dash, the long white robes. And it was during call to prayer, where they're out through these big loudspeakers is this, Middle Eastern or this Arabic voice shouting out these prayers. So it was a really whirlwind arrival over there, and I was there for about 3.5 months, I think. And we had a gig at the place called The Lodge, which was, I think this was the biggest nightclub in Dubai at the time, playing 6 nights a week, 4 sets a night of pop music. And it was, to be honest with you, it was great fun, but it was a little bit soul-killing as far as music went. So when I returned from that, I didn't touch my guitar for probably 3 months. I needed a break from that.
You'd injured your voice, right?
Yeah. Well, I also hurt my voice because I was singing so much over there. So I had to take a break from that. So I basically took a break from music for a little while. And then when I came back, I just decided that rather than trying to find a way to make a living playing music with some kind of marketable band or anything, I thought, I'm just going to go back to playing music that I really, really dig, and the reason I started playing in the first place. And so that's kind of where it's got me to here is, this is kind of the music I love to play. And that's what's kind of on the album. 1, 2, 3,
So tell me about these two guys that you have in your band. Like, you all went to Humber. You were all part of the music program at Humber.
At different times, though, we were never there at the same time.
Yeah.
I think Don went there just at the turn of the century. He's sitting right over there. We all went to Humber.
Is that just coincidence?
I guess it.
Or did somehow you connect that way?
I connected with Tom first, and we were playing. And at one point, we were looking for a drummer, and he said, "Hey, I know a guy." And when he wasn't available, we got Don. No, I'm just kidding. So he said he knew Don, and when I found out it was Don, it was funny because my oldest friend in the world used to take lessons from Don. And we used to go see Don's, he had this really kick-ass jazz band that would play at this bar in Kitchener. So when I was 16 years old, I'd be sneaking in to order, pitchers of beer and sitting at the back of this jazz club listening to Don play. And we loved it. And I thought, Don McDougall, I was like, hell, I'd love to play with Don McDougall. So because he's taught a couple of the drummers I've played with, and once we started playing together, it just kind of gelled right away, because that's where they learned it from, right? So yeah, it's really cool.
A lot of great musicians have actually come out of that Humber program, that Humber music program.
Well, I think a lot of, if you're really want to do
artists have actually come out of that Humber music program.
Jeff Healey went there, didn't he, I think? Or did he?
Yep, Jeff Healey went there, and there's a number of people.
There's a lot of great talent there. I was, if you really want to get into music and study it, that's kind of the place you went in Ontario, right? I think, at least. And there's so many talented players there, amazing profs to learn from. I found when I went there, you kind of get a little bit pressure to turn into a jazz player, because that's the school, that's the most complex harmony, that's what they're trying to teach. But I learned a lot there, and I think applying that to my own style of music has really helped, rather than trying to morph myself into a jazz player, which I'm certainly not.
At what age did you decide that you wanted to make music your lifelong career?
I don't know that I've ever decided that. I didn't really think about it. I just decided, I want to do this as much as I can. So I think going into college, obviously, that's when I thought I'm going to try and do this as a career. And when I found out what it was like to play everyday music that you weren't really that thrilled about, or didn't really connect with you on a deeper level, I decided that, maybe I wouldn't do it. And then once I got back into it, I kind of got back into it just for fun. And now it just kind of has continued to grow. And so I think as long as we do it because it's fun, it'll be successful. Mm-hmm. I'm not really interested in doing super commercial stuff or getting a cruise ship gig or, that kind of thing. So
our audience always likes gear talk.
Yes, gear nerds assemble.
Tell us a little bit about your gear.
Sure. Well, I had a long history with, many guitar players will do, you want the biggest, beefiest amp you can get and all that stuff. And I started with basically a Marshall stack, half stack. But it was just so loud, right? And you're playing clubs, you just can't crank it up to where you need it to be. Then I have a Fender Super Reverb, an old 66 Super Reverb Blackface, which is an awesome amp. But again, I just couldn't get it up to the sweet spot without club owners wanting to wring my neck. So a few years ago, I found this thing called Fractal Axe-Fx. It's actually the Axe-Fx 2, I guess was the second one they made. And it's a digital amp simulator. So this guy that I guess started the company is some sort of creative genius, and he basically virtually modeled all the circuitry of a tube amp, like all the physics and all the electrons and all the stuff like that. So I love it because it sounds amazing, and I can turn the volume up to or down to wherever I want it to be. So, and for recording, it's just amazing to be able to do that without having to mic up an amp and do all that stuff. And just in one box, I've got, I don't know how many amp models are in there. There's hundreds. Right.
And how did it come that you're on their website and you're kind of one of the featured artists that uses their equipment? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I have to think how that did happen. At one point, they approached me. I participate on their forums. They have an online forum there, so I sometimes would post clips of playing, and people share, hey, I got this really good tone. It sounds a lot like Queen. I got this really good Stevie Ray Vaughan tone. And so their marketing department ended up reaching out to me and asking me if I would do a demo of it. So, because they get various artists to kind of run through, here's how I use it, here's some of my tones, that kind of thing. So obviously I was thrilled to do that. So I ended up recording that, shipped the video off to them, and then a little while later I arrived on their website and the video went live, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
And what about the guitar you're playing today?
That guitar is a Strat, it's a 93 Strat. It's the first real good guitar I bought ages ago. I worked the worst job I've ever had in my life, paying it off $100 a week. So I've blood, sweat, and tears have gone into that guitar. But it's pretty Frankenstein. It's ebony fretboard. I put on the biggest frets you can get, which I think are Dunlop 6100s. Pickups, I just put in these pickups called Rocket Fire pickups that I just love. I've probably been through maybe 10 or 11 sets of pickups in that guitar, trying to find the tone I want. I really like the one that's in there now, or the ones that are in there now. And I think, I replaced the nut, and I replaced a couple of the tuner stuff, so it's a real Frankenstein guitar.
Does it have a name?
No, it doesn't. I think I would feel a little silly calling my guitar a name.
I thought a lot of guitarists give their guitars a name.
I call it names sometimes, but I don't know if it has one particular,
It hasn't gotten to the point yet where you're able to give it a name.
No, I don't think so. I don't know if I ever will or not, but yeah. No, it's a great guitar, but I guess everybody gets sentimental about their first good one. Mm-hmm. I had some pretty terrible guitars before that, but yeah.
Fantastic.
And I've got a Les Paul that I play as well, and a Telecaster, which is made by Forrest Custom Guitars, which is an amp builder down in Nashville.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So all three are on the album, and to varying degrees, but the Strat's always been my main thing.
Great. Well, Gary's album has dropped, so he's going to be touring this album and promoting this album. His website's at the bottom of the screen, so you'll be able to check out all his live dates, etc. Make sure that you check out the album, Twangadelic Bluesophunk. And I want to thank you, Gary, for coming on to the show.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for sharing and subscribing on the show, and thank you for being part of the tribe.
right, thank you very much.
If you want to hear more great Canadian blues acts, go to bluestribe.ca.